Well, good morning, everybody. Pastor Steve here. Thank you so much for being with me for today's devotion. We are in Numbers 31. So go ahead and open your Bible there. I want to remind everybody this weekend is Labor Day weekend. It's Monday. So Sunday, we are having one worship service, no life groups. One worship service at 10 a.m. We will observe the Lord's Supper during that service. So 10 a.m., one service, Lord's Supper, no life groups. I will be preaching. Look forward to seeing you Sunday morning. All right, today, Numbers 31. We talked about this a little bit earlier this week when I pointed out that, Balaam and his deceitfulness and that he was a hypocrite, and also why God instructed the Israelis to go to war with the Midianites. That's because the Midianites and the Moabites were conspiring together, not only to have Balaam put a curse on Israel, but through the underhanded advice of Balaam to seduce the Israelis into idolatry and adultery, sexual immorality, and that sometimes the Midianites refers not just to the Midianites, but all those people groups over on the eastern side of the Jordan. Sometimes the Moabites refers to the Moabites, but also occasionally to the larger groups, all the different groups, and so on. So that's in here. Now, I want to look at the battle itself. Chapter 31, verses 1 and 2. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Take full vengeance for the sons of Israel on the Midianites. Afterward, you will be gathered to your people." So Moses, this is the last big thing you're going to do, is lead the people in this battle, and then I'm calling you home. There's a review of the history and other things that happened, but this is the last big thing Moses does. And so he goes into battle, but notice verse 2, take vengeance. And that can sound very harsh, especially the way we use the word vengeance in our English language. This word, this Hebrew word, is not the idea of just taking vengeance out of anger. Okay, you're emotional, you're upset, you're mad, and you strike out. That's not what this word means. This word means to punish someone for some wrong they did. If you will, it can be used in a judicial sense of a sentence or a judgment that is given to someone as an act of justice because they've been convicted of a wrong. So it can be used to avenge a wrong. It's this idea of punishing for cause, not just I'm emotional, I'm angry, and I'm going to hit you. It's this word for vengeance has more of a sense of justice to it, that you did wrong and you deserve punishment. Now, there are times when that kind of vengeance, that kind of judgment, that kind of punishment is right and needed. When people commit a wrong, a crime, etc., can be justified. And remember that God ordained government to do that. We as individuals don't take, angry vengeance. God does, not an angry vengeance, but God judges and punishes people because it's deserved. And God has established government to punish those who do wrong, to punish people who commit crimes. And Israel here in this war is acting as a nation, i.e. as the government. And it wasn't just the leaders of Midian or the leaders of Moab who had been enemies of Israel. The people conspired with their leaders to tempt and undermine, weaken, and destroy the Hebrew people. So the people were as much a part of it. The people of the Midianites and the Moabites were the citizens of the country were as much a part of doing what they could to destroy Israel as their nation's leaders were. And so that is what is behind this attack, not just on the army, but on the citizenry of these people groups. And Israel was not going to be safe as long as they allowed these people to stay there conspiring to destroy Israel. They would never have stopped. There are groups in the Middle East today that will never stop trying to destroy Israel. It doesn't matter how many countries sign peace treaties. There are some who will never, ever leave Israel alone. History has shown us that. Anyway, verses 7 and 8. So they made war against Midian, the Hebrews did, just as the Lord had commanded Moses, and they killed every male. They killed the kings of Midian along with the rest of the slain, list the 5 kings, and we read this a few days ago, and they also killed Balaam, this false this conniving, sneaky prophet. Now, this doesn't mean that every single man among the Midianites died. There would have been some of the soldiers who, when the battle was being lost, would have fled, would have survived. We know that the Midianites were not eradicated because in the book of Judges and elsewhere in the future, there are Midianites who are fighting against the Hebrew people. So they weren't eradicated. It's not that every single man was killed. When you read this in isolation, it can seem that way. But that's not what it's saying, because it was very common in ancient cultures to use these exaggerated terms as a way of describing the totality of the victory. We do the same thing today. Everybody, the whole city. We do the same thing today, don't we? And remember, God had already punished the Hebrew people, with the leaders of their sin at Beor being executed, and then the plague, and about 24,000 of them dying. So God had judged his own people, and now he's judging the people who caused his people to fall into sin. Verses 15 and 16 in your Bible. Moses said to them, "Have you spared all the women? Behold, these caused the sons of Israel through the counsel of Balaam to trespass against the Lord in the matter of Peor. So the plague was among the congregation of the Lord." So it was the women. It wasn't just the men. It wasn't just the army. It wasn't just the leaders, the kings of the Midianites and the Moabites who were conspiring to destroy Israel. The women were part of it. That's why in this particular battle, taking vengeance, some of the women die. Verses 17 and 18. "Now therefore kill every male among the little ones, kill every woman who has known man intimately, but not those who have not had sexual intimacy." What's going on here? Well, the women who were part of this plot to destroy Israel, they paid for it. Those who were not, they were allowed to live. The boys, because in their culture, a boy was obligated when he grew up to take his vengeance on anyone who harmed his parents. That was their culture. And sometimes you have to take care of future problems with drastic steps in the present moment. You have to deal with the root cause. So those are just some thoughts on this. They also in this chapter purify the booty, the spoils of war, and divide them between the soldiers and the people, and some of it is given to the Lord. And I do have a devotional thought from all of that. And here's what it is. When citizens support an evil, sinful government, they are in part to blame for what that evil, sinful government does. They cannot just wash their hands of it. As followers of Jesus, we need to be holy, live holy, obey the Lord. And as followers of Jesus, we have to call sin, sin. Doesn't mean we treat people mean. We can be kind, but we call sin, sin. And here's the thing. If we're going to be followers of Jesus, we can't call the sins of one group sin while ignoring the sins of another group. You can't point out the sins of Republicans and ignore the sins of Democrats. You can't point out the sins of Democrats and ignore the sins of Republicans. You may think one group is more right than another group. That's okay. But that doesn't mean you ignore the sins of either group. None if you're a follower of Jesus. Sin is sin. And the people cannot support it. If you're going to follow Jesus, you can't support it. Doesn't matter which party, which political group, which entity, which whatever is doing it. We have to be honest about all that stuff. Anyway, that's the lesson for me, for us today from Numbers chapter 31. Tomorrow we'll be looking, as we wrap up this week, at Numbers 32. I'll see you then. God bless you, everybody.